Transformation Revisited, Gospel Imagination. We are here to revisit transformation, and in this session specifically, to examine gospel imagination. How does one examine imagination? And gospel imagination? What gospel are we talking about? The good news of what kingdom? As most of us in INFEMIT have come to realize, the Christians in our home countries cannot even begin to agree on which gospel we preach, which transformation we seek, which kingdom should come. Are we talking about Putin's Russian Orthodox Empire, Trump's Christian nationalist dictatorship, Calvin's Geneva, Spain's cross and sword, or will the kingdom include all, as De las Casas desired? Should we live quietly as pacifist Mennonites, or join Munzer's murderous, thieving hordes of peasants? Will we be martyred with Romero's based communities, or enriched by Cash Luna's prosperity gospel? Should we await the rapture, or dedicate ourselves to Lausanne's managerial multiplication? Often the world is much clearer on what it imagines, what it longs for, what it would transform. The gospel of growth floods our lands while it desiccates our fields. Our minds are transformed daily by new temptations. Even today's bread comes in 100 varieties at some latitudes. In this talk, I will spell out a method to interrogate and understand imagination and our efforts to embody it, propose a situated understanding of transformation as an integral mission method, and propose a possible vision of a gospel-imagined in-state towards which to navigate, built on the networked local church as a driver of change. We, INFEMIT, came up with transformation and the integral mission imaginary as gospel answers to a given perma-colonial context, desperate for good news, at a time when market neo-imperialism was becoming ascendant in prescribing growth as the answer, while state communism was struggling on as a fading counter-imaginary. In the secular imaginations of that day, our nation-states would be transformed by revolutionaries, state bureaucrats, foreign capitalists, or international development technicians. Or, in one gospel imaginary of the day, homogenous units of unsaved peoples would assent to a disembodied personal salvation, multiply across the world, and float up to heaven, singing about their boyfriend, Jesus. But despite Che Guevara's best efforts, La Revolución valió verga, as a Salvadoran guerrilla comandante told me one day at my favorite bar. State communism wasn't so grand, to put it more delicately. And it's hard to do Scandinavian socialist South without the spoils of empire. Well, not even the famous economist John Maynard Keynes, with all sorts of international monetary funds, could get the rest to catch up with the West while paying back the World Bank's usurious loans. And the WTO was organizing the world trade game. And while the Western missionaries and their acolytes may have converted the majority of a few nations to their personal prosperity gospel, the kingdom still hasn't come. But back to us as INFEMIT. We are here today to revisit transformation, our mission and gospel imaginations, not those of someone else's. We did come up with some decent means, transformation, and integral mission, but I suspect someone else's imaginary still tempts us. At the very least, we failed to see how differently transformation plays out for the penitent thief or the pious billionaire. And as a group that pioneered contextual theology, we not only lost the forest for the trees, but we've lost the broader ecosystem for our forests and their clear-cut trees. Our emphasis on context left us to focus on community and nation, while imperial structures laid our neighborhoods low, polluted our lands, and withered our theologies. You see, what I believe happened is we took up the transformation of our communities and nations within a world system that bounds and blinds our imaginaries. While we valiantly struggled to transform, the world system continued to innovate on colonization, especially on the colonization of our imaginaries. As we saw at the Copa America, we can play the beautiful game on our dusty streets with barely a ball, but we still watch our best players far away playing in beautiful stadiums while we crowd around the big or little screens in our dingy bars. For too many of us, transformation through integral mission became synonymous with transformational development. Yet no matter how long you've been walking with the poor in the bottom of a spent and exhausted South African gold mine, it is extremely difficult for them poor to pull off self-sustainable development in the emptied mine pits, puddling full of the strange new rains. That is, unless the rich young rulers of the north and the Zacchaeus of the south return some of the gold, unless the land is redeemed, unless debts are forgiven and reparations paid. Often, helping does hurt, especially for those privileged few who take up the cross. I suspect we got satisfied when our best and brightest got jobs with world vision and compassion and did the integral mission for us. When our academics got tenure at prestigious universities, when our children bought new cars, and our grandkids learned English at private school, our nephews and nieces sent us pictures from the US and the UK, and we beamed with pride. Our leaders told us to read Padilla and Escobar, Bediako and Magai. But those same leaders lacked the boldness of their forebears in daring to ask and attempt to answer the tough questions of our day. Without knowing it, we began to live an American dream rather than a gospel imaginary. We got credit cards and loans for our own cars, even if they were Korean and not Fords or Chevrolets. We ate hamburgers and drank Coca-Cola Zero. We read the old books, patted ourselves on the back, and flew off to international conferences. Personally, I'm the first to admit that the humble daily embodiment of Misión Integral out of the spotlight, of washing dishes at Casa Robe, is a lot less exciting than standing up here and spouting off my ideas to you all. It's all too easy to forget the seductive powers of imaginaries not written by the author of our common prayer. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name, your kingdom come, your will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us today our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we also have forgiven our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from the evil one. But before we delve into that prayer and other elements of a gospel imaginary, I want to introduce a very particular way to look at imaginary. Social technical imaginary, what I find a very helpful frame. There's a sense of imaginary as poetic, as lyrical, as fantasy, but that's not what I want to focus on. I'd like to suggest we consider the paradigm of social technical imaginary. That's a concept extremely useful in my work, better than discourse, better than worldview. Why? Why? Because it combines imaginative, futuristic, if you will, kingdom elements with the very concrete and technical side of things, while simultaneously highlighting the social and communal aspect, the people side of any imaginary. For me, in social technical imaginary, the imaginary is the vision of the architect. It is a vision for the project. It needs a process to be achieved, but without a clear vision, one does not know which way to head. The technical is more like the building, the beams, the columns, the walls, the floors, the ceiling, whether it's got indoor plumbing or electricity. The construction materials, be they adobe, brick, or cement block. Will the house have a jacuzzi and a trash compactor? Or will we all be sleeping in one room in front of the TV? And where are we getting the money for all this? The state, the bank, Habitat for Humanity, mom and dad, or our own blood, sweat, and tears? The social is who builds the building and how. Do we hire a renowned builder, a master craftsman, specialist for the plumbing and the lighting to make our dream home? Are we pumping out 100 McMansions in a affluent suburb of Sydney? Or thousands of small tract houses in a working-class barrio in Bolivia? Are we piecing together cardboard and rusty discarded zinc roofing on someone else's land? Or are we raising a home together with family, friends, and community in our ancestral lands? Jasanoff and Kim explain how they see the promise of this lens. What makes the careful study of imaginaries rewarding is that one is forced to look at the stylized moves through which collective mindfulness is trained, moves that may endow social actors with some forms of prescient vision, even with the capacity to move mountains, while rendering them oblivious to alternative forms of organization, order, and justice. An inquiry into social technical imaginaries allows at its best a deep meditation on the basis of a technological society's particular forms of sightedness and blindness, and the trade-offs that inevitably accompany attempts to build a shared normative order. So that sets the stage a little bit. Social technical imaginary is building a house, the architect with a vision, the technical and the social, the material and communal means. Of course, when we step out into the world, we aren't like a newlywed couple from a Hollywood movie with a beautiful, pristine lot and all the cash to build our dream house. No, we aren't even building just houses, but instead entire neighborhoods. And in most cases, the houses and the neighborhoods are already long established. Yet we long for clean slates and simple utopias. And despite whether we find ourselves in a barrio or the boardroom, we always face our complex current conditions and complicated histories. But what is a gospel social technical imaginary? Given our time constraints, let's try and unravel that complex history, all those varied social economic conditions that we find in our unequal world with one simple prayer. Let's apply the social technical imaginary to the Lord's Prayer. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name, your kingdom come. Who is the architect? The Father. What is the architect building? The kingdom or the kingdom of God, including every neighborhood and nation, but also every emperor on bended knee. Long for it now is the answer to win. Rest assured it will arrive. Your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Whose will? Not state, market, NGO, or revolutionary, but the bridegroom's will. Will be done? Trust. Long for it to be done. Where? On earth and in the new heavens and the new earth. Give us our daily bread. What ritual? not a Big Mac in our big truck. Which technique? Rice and beans, arepas or tortillas, perhaps naan. Which memory? Broken bread and spilt blood. How much? Enough. Not more, enough. And forgive us our debts, as we have also forgiven our debtors. Sins? Debts. Trespasses? Debts. We have fields upon fields, barns upon barns, houses upon houses. Forgiven our debtors, redeemed the enslaved, restored ancestral lands, released the captives, and lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from the evil one. Temptation. From the world's sexy, shiny imaginaries, deliverance from idolizing, enslaving visions. And finally, who is praying this prayer Christ taught us? Who prays? Us, not the individual me. Who prays? The community of missionary disciples. Who conforms that community? Woman and man. Who? Wealthy and poor. Who? Slave and free, native and foreign-born, clean and unclean, barren and fertile. Who prays? The church, the bride of Christ. We need an imaginative, social, technical agent capable of affecting world system change. Is that the local church, agent of transformation? And in Bevan's words, the church is God's pilgrim people, called and gathered together by the Spirit in all its diversity, in faith in the risen Christ, in order to embody, demonstrate, and proclaim the reign of God, which it believes was inaugurated in and through Jesus, whose mission it shares and continues both within the church and within the world. Do we dare to be that church, the local leavening church, networked and global, pursuing not growth and development, but accepting enough and seeking what I call levelment, seeking not only the process of transformation, but the end state of shalom, not only the change, but a church and world clearly embracing peace and justice. Can we rebuild faith in that kind of local church again? Not our grandfather's church, but our granddaughter's churches. Or will we sit and wait for the North to finance our NGOs? Will we hope our political parties get enough votes in the next election? Will we pray to the high priests of the economic system to bring down foreign capital investment? Or will we huddle in timid churches, singing the same songs, paralyzed by fear of the new questions our young people ask? Or perhaps, together, across the world, we will rise up in our doubt and despair, in our weariness and our weakness, in our dependence on none other than our risen Lord, and respond to the voice of one calling. In the wilderness, prepare the way for the Lord. Make straight in the desert a highway for our God. Every valley shall be raised up, every mountain and hill made low. The rough ground shall become level, the rugged places a plain, and the glory of the Lord will be revealed. And all people will see it together, for the mouth of the Lord has spoken. So in conclusion, I'll close by saying, the North cannot be our norte. The North cannot be our one compass point. The Northern Star points to the Big Dipper, not the Southern Cross. To navigate our seas and deserts toward levelment, Ubuntu, Sumak Kaswai, or Shalom, towards our contextual visions of the kingdom, we will need to use our own stars, like our Aboriginal Australian kin. El sur también existe. The South also exists. Transformation is taken hostage when we set all our compasses to the magnetic north. We get caravans of Americano dreamers trudging through the Darien Gap. We get flotillas of Africans, Arabs, and Asians washed up on Western beaches. We get translated theology shipped south to save us from ourselves. Instead, we need a bold, world-transformative Christianity seeking shalom and the reconciliation of all things, and a networked, global, local church up to the task not of tumbling towers with fundamentalist fury or pulling down the columns like a blinded Samson, but crumbling the concrete foundations of empire like grass, rusting the iron walls with the salt and spirit-filled breeze. No, nor will we chop down the cedars of Lebanon to build Solomon's offensive palaces and temples. We will not make low the mountains with strip mines to fill Europe's cathedrals with our gold and silver, nor to fill our iPhones with Africa's cobalt. No, we will not raise up the valleys with trash dumps filled with the styrofoam cups we drink from day after day. Instead, we will make straight the path for our servant King and for the least of us who follow him. Together, our peoples, our ecclesia, will cross the Red Sea to freedom, but not across plastic islands. Together, we will cross over not a Jordan choked with pollution, silt, and Palestinian bodies. No, together an angel will show us the river of the water of life, as clear as crystal, flowing from the throne of God and of the Lamb down the middle of the great street of the city. There all our nations, all our assemblies, with all our many contextual visions of a level, righted world will finally end. We will finally end our long pilgrimages of transformation. We will sing in harmony our many songs. We will feast on our rich cuisines. Our children will play with lions and lambs, snakes and sloths, and we will rise up strong like eagles and look down on God's good creation.